Up next, we're going to have Marvin McMoore, who is a political activist and former senior local government official, who's going to tell us what's next, what can we do, and where do I fit in.
Great. Thank you so much. As she said, my name is Marv McMoore Jr. And just a little bit about myself. I'm from Long Beach, and I'm so excited to be here and so excited so many young people on a Saturday engaged in all this work. I got my start in government and politics when I was 15 years old. So obviously, young people can and should get involved in politics. And I was an intern for the city of Long Beach, and I worked my way up, and I was an intern also for President Obama on his reelection campaign in 2012. So I worked to get him elected. As a young person, I was only 18 when I did that as well. And over the past 5 years, I've worked both as a senior governmental official, as a director of policy for Nassau County, and also most recently, I worked for Mayor Pete, who ran for president. And also in 2016, I advised Hillary Clinton on her youth strategy. And I say this because, I think it's important to know that you can make a career in politics, you can make a living in public service, and that's what I've done. And, I encourage you all to consider doing that as well. So today I'm speaking obviously about where do we all fit in, what's next. And, the great thing is there's so many opportunities to be involved and stay engaged in politics and in the Black Lives Matter movement. And the first way that you can fit in, and I think the most important, is to invest in yourself. And but by that, I mean stay informed and seek knowledge. So, I implore you all to, read your history, Google Black history. There's so many different documentaries that are available for free on these streaming services. Continue to go to class and ask questions, stay engaged, particularly in social studies. Also, to stay up to date, watch the news. I know it's a thing that a lot of adults do, but when I was 15, I started watching the news. And that's how I stayed informed. You can also go online to CNN.com or different apps to make sure that you're engaged and informed. I think that's the most important thing that you can do, is to invest in yourself and to invest in this work. The next is to obviously spread awareness, obviously working with making sure your parents are okay with it, or your guardians, to post on social media. The great thing about young people is that, we're tech savvy. We know how to use the internet better than any other generation. And it, really amplifies this work. If we see a protest happening, or if there's a flyer to a protest, we can share that on our social media page. There's so many resources that we can share to keep people informed. Also, continue to go to sessions like these. There are a ton during this COVID. There's a ton of different virtual sessions. So if you Google, Black Lives Matter virtual sessions or learning things, obviously, talking to your parents, you should, continue to go to those sessions and continue to learn. Also, spreading awareness also means speak to the people in your life, right? So, speak to your friends, speak to your classmates, speak to your family about, the Black Lives Matter movement and about politics and the things that you want to see as a change in your community. The next thing that you can do to stay involved is obviously, directly get involved by, attending a protest if you haven't, with your parent or with the permission from your parents. And, there's a lot of petitions online. Though you can't vote yet if you're not 18, you still do have a voice, and you can sign petitions on different causes that you believe in. The next thing that I'm going to say is, you can get involved in politics, on the presidential campaigns, that I advised. I remember, on President Obama's campaign, we had people who were 5 years old, volunteering for the campaigns. And you can do that now, obviously, talking to your parents. And again, although you can't vote yourself, you have a large influence and a large voices. Elected officials, people like your city council members, or your or your county elected officials, or your member of Congress, they represent you too, and you can use your voice to stand up for Black Lives Matter movement. By calling elected officials. Obviously, talk to your parents, but you can call your local elected officials. And I used to work in government, and one of the most powerful things is when people call your office and say, I want this program to be invested in, I want this nonprofit to get money, I want to build, I want to invest in the Black community. And telling your elected officials that is a really powerful way to get your point across. The next thing I will say is making sure that people who in your life who are old enough to register to vote are registered to vote. So speaking to your parents, speaking to your older sibling or your cousin who is 18 years old or older and is not registered to vote, tell them that they can just go online. It's very easy to register to vote. That's a very important step to take. And the last thing that I will say, to stay involved and where do you fit in, is to consider going into public service and consider working in nonprofit organizations. For example, for me, I loved social studies when I was a kid and when I was in school. So when I went to college, I decided to study political science. That's essentially, it's the major in college that looks at politics, looks at government. And if you like social studies, you'd really like this major. And it set me up for a career in politics. Right now I'm a senior strategist, and I'm working to advise Joe Biden on how to do social media for his campaign to beat Donald Trump. But it started with me going to college for political science, and and my sister studied African American studies. So if you're really interested in this, like, you can continue this in college. You can consider internships. As I said, when I was 15 years old, I started interning with the city of Long Beach, my local government. And there are tons of volunteer opportunities around at nonprofit organizations. So if you're interested in this sort of work, you should definitely step up and consider getting involved. But that all goes to say that there's many different ways to stay involved and to further this work. And again, I say the most important thing at this age is to learn. Read read books about Black history, read books and watch documentaries and watch the news. I think is the most important thing, because if you're informed, that then gives you the power to inform others and act on their behalf. So that's essentially, what I wanted to come on and talk to you all today about. But I'm very happy to take any questions or anything about, how to get involved, or anything that I've done in politics or in government. But thank you for having me.